The moments when we see a MAGA Fox host actually stand up and tell the truth are few and far between, but it is even rarer to see them do so in front of Donald Trump. But we saw that this morning when Brian Kilmeade, who is clearly fed up with Donald Trump pushing Putin's talking points, challenged him repeatedly in an interview they had live on air over the lies that Donald Trump was telling about President Zelensky and Ukraine. I was surprised to see even a little bit of spine out of Kilmeade, but he actually did step up and call out the lies of Donald Trump. And as you'd expect, Trump got pretty furious about that, and we are going to get into it all. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, let's get into this first clip of Trump just blatantly attacking Zelensky in such a strange way.
We'll see what happens. I thought it was great because the location is, it's a great location. I don't know why Israel ever gave that up. Why did they give it up? I guess they look at us and say, why did you give up the Panama Canal, Brian? Right.
It's all connected. Ariel Sharon decided to do
you
that.
Look down on a map, they have the whole ocean. And somebody from Israel, I guess, I can tell you who, but it was well known, but he decided to give it up.
Yeah,
it's one of the bad real estate deals. I see a lot of bad real estate deals. That's one of them right there.
I don't think Trump understands the power of his words as the American president. When you say that Zelensky has no power in this negotiation, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. You're making it so that is the case. But also, Ukraine has been fighting back and keeping this war going, not in the sense of wanting to keep it going, but defending against Putin's attack in a way that no one around the world could believe. Those are the cards that they have. That strength of will, that fight that their people have, aided by the United States, their ability to push back against Putin, the millions of Russians who have died fighting this war, those are the cards that Zelensky has. He has the backing of all of Europe. He has the backing, or did have the backing, of the United States. Donald Trump is hurting himself in this negotiation if he says Zelensky has no cards. It's just stupid. It all comes back to making a great deal, and we got to do a deal, and we're putting together a deal. But he's clearly bad at making that deal. He's taking away any leverage he or Zelensky has, which clearly shows which side of this thing he wants to be on. But speaking of the deal nonsense, take a listen to what he had to say right here.
He's been negotiating for 3 years. And just so you know, when you say Russia was the attacker, yes, Russia was attacked. Russia attacked. But there was no reason for them to attack. You could have talked him out. There was no reason that he should have attacked. That whole thing was going on for years. There was no reason he was going in. It should have never happened. That war should have never happened. And I'm telling you, the way they talked, I said, these guys are going to go into a war. Every time I say, oh, it's not Russia's fault, I always get slammed by the fake news. But I'm telling you, Biden said the wrong things. Zelensky said the wrong things. They got attacked by somebody that's much bigger and much stronger.
This is what I always raise with Trump supporters is point to me the moment in which he said something, some competent thought, some clearly articulated policy point on anything, and he can't do it. He just continues to repeat the same words that he kind of liked in the 80s: deal, tariff, strength, immigration. Like that's it. He doesn't actually say anything of substance. Putin did not want a deal with Zelensky. Putin wants to continue to go into Europe. That's the whole point. It's the reason when Trump supporters or Trump or Vance or whomever say that, oh, we need Greenland for the tactical, foreign policy, that from that standpoint, we need it because it's so close to Russia. It's like, so is Ukraine. And we already have an ally there willing to work with us and willing to fight back against Vladimir Putin, who I feel like I'm taking crazy pills, is still our enemy. Does he not understand that? Really? Clearly not. And what's crazy is a lot of Republicans actually seem to, those without spines. But like I said, Brian Kilmeade actually did stand up to Trump and called him out when he tried to say that Russia wasn't the aggressor in this war. And I want to take a look at that right here.
But look what you have. You have a man who's led a country that had the most beautiful cities that they demolished, had the most beautiful domes. Those domes are the most beautiful
But it's
in
all
the world.
Russia's. But that's Russia's fault, though, Mr. President. Russia
They're
did
all
the
demolished.
but
1,000-year-old domes, and everything's demolished. I mean, it's like a demolition site. Though it's sort of like Gaza. In fact, it's more. At least Gaza has a couple of buildings standing.
Right.
I mean, this place. You take a look at the demolition of so many of those cities, and and all those people are killed, never to come back again.
But Mr. President, that's that's Vladimir Putin's fault. Don't you agree?
I get tired of listening to it. I'll tell you what. I've seen it enough. And then he complains that he's not at a meeting that we're having with Saudi Arabia trying to intermediate a peace. Well, he's been at meetings for 3 years with with a president who didn't know what the hell he was doing. He's been in the meetings for 3 years, and nothing got done. So I don't think it's very important to be at meetings, to be honest with you. He's been there for 3 years. He makes it very hard to make deals. But look what's happened to his country. It's been demolished.
But I hear you.
He's going to go back.
But Mr. President, you know who's to blame for that.
That's when there's peace,
don't you think?
I am, like I said, very surprised to see Kilmeade just try to push back against Trump and say, no, it's not Zelensky responsible. That's an absurd thing to say. No, there has been destruction in towns and cities across Ukraine, not because any fault of President Zelensky, but because Putin is attacking them. It's Russia's fault. It's their war. They started it. They weren't coerced into it by Zelensky not making a deal that wasn't on the table or ever there or ever thought of. Donald Trump is just straight up pushing these Kremlin talking points. It's the reason why Russian state TV is always showing clips of him while they're not, blatantly mocking him, because even they know he's stupid. But I hate to say this, good on Brian Kilmeade for just confronting Donald Trump and actually having a little bit of chutzpah to stand up and call him out. And it's not the first time this has happened. Clearly, it's an issue important to Kilmeade because he pushed back against Donald Trump's national security advisor and Mike Waltz on this same very topic. And I want to check that out right here.
Right. To me, this reminds me of Lion Ted and De Sanctimonious. When the president locks horns and gets angry, that's what he does. But he also could put his hand out and say, let's move forward. That's where this reminds me of.
And, Brian, and the same ones that are screaming for peace and are screaming for a ceasefire over in Gaza, I guess are screaming for endless war in Europe. It's nonsensical. This is a common sense plan. They may not like it, but we're going to drive it forward, and everybody will stop squawking when the fighting ends.
When the Russians say, we met with President, we met with you and Marco Rubio, and we got the sense that the U.S. is with us, are they wrong?
Well, I think our interests are aligned in stopping the war. They have different reasons, of course, in the Ukrainians. There's still all kinds of disagreement that we need to pull both sides together. But, Brian, that was a historic first step, and it started with that historic phone call that President Trump had with Putin and the confidence-building measure that we had with the release of Mark Fogel. Remember, that was just a week ago, Brian. I don't think time is on anyone's side, and we're going to move forward full speed ahead to drive this war to an end. And then we can talk about broader geostrategic relationships, and that's the conversation we had with the Russians, but it's a first of many to come.
Would it be great if the Russians handed back the 20,000 children they stole from the Ukrainian families, renamed them, and handed them out to Russians? Would they ever agree to give the children back?
Now, although Kilmeade did do a good job, I'll give him that, of calling out Donald Trump's lies, I wish he would have just pushed back with a little bit more force. I know Trump is kind of a bulldozer in all these conversations, and, these Fox hosts have no spine, so it's kind of easy to roll over them. But I would have liked to see a little bit more pushback. I don't know. I guess you get what you get, and he did a pretty good job. But someone who actually brought that forceful condemnation that we really need to see was Bernie Sanders talking about Donald Trump in this clip right here.
Thanks, everybody, for joining me to discuss a very, very serious issue. Yesterday, we witnessed an extremely sad moment in American history. We saw the President of the United States aligning himself with the dictator of Russia, Vladimir Putin, to undermine the independence of Ukraine and its democracy. Let's be clear. Trump is showing us that he sees one of the world's most brutal dictators as his friend and our longtime democratic allies in Europe as his enemies. He wants a world that is safe for authoritarians and oligarchs, but extremely dangerous for democracies. It will not surprise you when I tell you that Trump is lying, as he so often does. Yesterday, Trump said that Ukraine started the war. That's not true. Russia invaded Ukraine twice, first in 2014 and then again in 2022. Right now, Russia occupies about 20% of Ukraine. Since Putin's horrific invasion, over 1 million people have been killed or injured. Every single day, Russia continues to rain down hundreds of missiles and drones on Ukrainian cities. Putin's forces have massacred civilians and kidnapped thousands of Ukrainian children, bringing them back to Russian re-education camps. These atrocities led the International Criminal Court to issue an arrest warrant for Putin in 2023 as a war criminal. Further, Trump called Ukrainian President Zelensky a dictator. That's not true either. Zelensky won 75% of the vote in free elections. In fact, his approval rating is higher than Trump's. In the midst of a brutal war, Ukraine's parliament continues to function and free and unfettered political debate takes place. Trump claimed that our European allies have done little to support Ukraine in its fight against Putin's invasion. He said the United States has contributed 3 times more than Europe. But that's another lie.
It is a sad day in American history when we are clearly abandoning our allies. And it was said yesterday on the Bulwark podcast that you don't even have to be like a foreign policy expert to understand this stuff. It's like the people that we're getting in bed with during the Trump administration are like the bad guys in the Rocky movies. It's like, it's Drago, or now, Trump's in with the Saudis. It's like, if you just watched any piece of American, culture, like if you saw a movie or a TV show and who were the bad guys, it's like, those are the people that we're aligned with now. It's like, you don't have to be smart to realize that siding with Russia is wrong, but it's what Donald Trump is doing. And we're going to keep calling him out on it every single day on the show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. You can leave a like on this video. And if you stuck around at the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.